The ultimate tournament of everything.
Welcome to the ultimate tournament of everything, and for the first time in a long time, the whole show.
That's right. And if you've been here before, you know that we go through this show pitting 2x2 rounds of competition, trying to figure out who is victorious by assigning each one of the infinite elements of the infinite to one of the infinite moments of this continuous thing that we're experiencing now called time. We then activate our homemade time machine and show up at a randomly generated moment. Which one will be assigned to that moment? Well, that will be the one moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Well, we could do that, but my time machine unfortunately only travels in one direction, forward. And sometimes I can speed it up through sleeping.
Yep, sleeping is pretty great, but we hope that in this podcast we're able to keep you from doing so. And so, let's get right in to round one.
Round one.
In round one, we have Barry Tait against Shrek.
Okay, not the Shrek you may be thinking of, not the Barry you may be thinking of. Let's see which one of these two is going to be successful in this initial round of 2023.
Barry Stewart Tait, born June 17th, 1938, and passed away October 23rd, 2020, was an English professional footballer who played as an inside forward.
Probably would have been better if he played outside of the forward and was a forward himself. He was born in York, playing for the Doncaster Rovers, York City, Peterborough United, Bradford City, Halifax Town, Crews, Alexandra, Notts County, and Scarborough, where he did a fair job.
He later worked as assistant coach and scout for York City, watched players for Manchester United, and set up a development center in York for Leeds United. He also served as manager of York Railway Institute. Now, it says when he watched players, it doesn't list that as an official capacity, so maybe he just went and sat in the stands. He's like, hey, I'm watching you.
A glorified scout, no doubt. But speaking of scouts, it's going to take a lot of scouts to map out a region such as our other competitor, Shrek. I believe that's how it'd be pronounced, a rural locality in Kulinsky District, Republic of Dagestan, Russia.
The population was 1,630 as of 2010, and there are, get this, no stoplights but 5 streets.
I hope that one of them was Sesame Street for no reason other than I would find it personally interesting. Now, Gereshk is located 12 kilometers southeast of Vachi, the district's administrative center, by road, probably one of the aforementioned 5.
And of course, Cooley and Sambatl are the nearest rural localities. Nationalities, the Laks live their famous residents, Shervani Shaliv, who is a composer, and Magomed Zagid Amanov, the poet and translator. He would be very helpful in this round.
So looking at this map of where it is it on the far eastern side of Russia? Far?
Potentially, it is near some type of body of water, but the map is not labeled.
Either that or a large nation of blue. We'll never know. So, speaking of blue, which one of our competitors is going to leave this round blue for losing it in lieu of the other one winning it? We've got Barry and Shrek.
Well, I think I have to give this one to Barry, just because he's been a manager of Railway Institute, he's done a lot with football, and apparently he even watches people play. That's enough for me.
He played for a whole bunch of towns. He watched a whole bunch of football players, and I'm pretty sure that he knows how to make a goal. So I'm going to go ahead and concur with you here in this initial round. Barry Tait, we're not going to bury the lead. You're moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Good on you, Barry. Good on you.
So good, in fact, that I think that we should, just as he watched football players, watch ourselves proceed into round 2.
It's time for round 2.
In round 2, we have Lapworth Cirque against Marco Salas Contreras.
Two things that I'm sure were a blast. We've got a cirque. We're going to learn what that is in just a moment. Versus Marco Salas Contreras. Heck, we're going to learn about who he is in a moment as well. Let's proceed without any foreknowledge.
The Lapworth Cirque is a cirque to the west of the Goldschmidt Cirque in eastern portion of the Reed Mountains in the Shackleton Range, and a cirque I believe has something to do with the glacier. It is an amphitheater-like valley formed by glacial erosion. There we go. Former or alternative names for this landform are Corey and CWM. A cirque may also be similarly shaped landform arising from fluvial erosion.
Yeah, this is very, very fascinating. It's in the eastern portion of the Reed Mountains in Shackleton Range, Antarctica. It was photographed from the air by the U.S. Navy in 1967. They thought, hey, pretty cool cirque, eh? And surveyed by the British Antarctic Survey from 1968 to 1971. Interesting time to be down there. Hope they had a good one.
In association with the names of geologists grouped in this area, it was named by the UK Antarctic Place Names Committee in 1971 after British geologist Charles Lapworth, who established the stratigraphic succession in southern Scotland and who defined the Ordovician system.
He was also professor of geology and physiography at Birmingham University between the years of 1881 and 1913. Let's see if our other competitor did anything between that span of time.
Well, it looks like he didn't. Marco Salas Contreras, born April 25th, 1955, is a Mexican politician from the National Action Party. From 2006 until 2009, he served as deputy of the LX legislature of the Mexican Congress representing Veracruz. LX, I think, means 60?
Probably. Let's see. It doesn't tell me, and it might mean large extra. So this could have been a particularly, sizable Congress here. It looks like he's with the political party PAN, which in English is actually the NAP, the National Action Party. Not a lot of action usually incorporated with NAPs, but PAN's got a whole bunch of action sizzling off the top. It's a conservative political party in Mexico founded in 1939.
Now, they're one of the four main political parties in Mexico, and since the 80s, they've had success winning local, state, and national elections. So, PAN or NAP, I guess you are the winner today, but are you really the winner right now?
And here and now is all we have. I'm gonna go ahead and say though, this what we say, it's a natural amphitheater made of ice formed by glacial erosion. That is a whole bunch of high scoring words in my book.
If only we were playing Scrabble, the rules would make any sense, but we're not, and so there are rules, and so they don't, but I agree with you. I'm going to give it to that cirque for no other reason than I think it's a word I've never heard before.
Yes, it is not that of the Soleil, but it is that of victory here in the first round. Nothing cooler than a cirque in Antarctica for multiple reasons, and that's why you're moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
There you go. Sorry, Mexico, you don't have any glaciers that we know of.
Yeah, it probably did at one time. The whole earth was covered in ice, and time passes as we continue to harp on in this episode. Speaking of harping on, let's continue to round three.
It's time for round 3.
In round 3, we have Neurofaceta Calmoralis against Walter Duffield.
Oh man, here we have it, the very first appearance in this new year, new season, Neurophyceta colmoralis. It is a moth in the family of That's right, we're all loving to hear it. It's our favorite whenever it shows up in the lovely family of Crambidae, facing off against an individual from the lovely family of Duffield, Mr. Walter, a pastoralist and politician.
Well, I had to get the air horn in there because there's nothing more annoying than that sound, and there's almost nothing more annoying than a moth, such as this one, described by Strand in 1916. This is about all we know about it. It's been described once. There's not even a picture. It looks mothy.
Yeah, it won't really bug you unless you're on Cormoros, for that is where it's found, and it was recorded from Anjouan. Not sure where that is. Let's see if we can find out. We've got the time. It is an autonomous high island in the Indian Ocean. So unless you find yourself there, you're probably just going to be dreaming of this dreamy, dreamy moth. Speaking of dreamy, let's get on over to our other competitor, Mr. Walter Duffield.
Look at that beard. Now, Duffield was born in Great Baddow, Essex, England, son of William Duffield, a farmer. Walter arrived in South Australia in the William Barris, which is apparently a ship, in December of 1839. His first occupation was as manager for fellow passenger Jacob Hagen's estate at Echunga, where his wine was some of the first produced in the colony.
Now, he left Echunga to build up the Parapara estate, so nice they named it twice, near Gawler, and produced hams, wines, and orchard fruit, probably out of which he made wines. He later had 40,000 merino sheep, none of which created wine.
He started businesses in Gawler as a flour miller and merchant, and in conjunction with Harold Brothers as Duffield, Harold and Company, later Duffield, Harold and Herd, owned Winteringa and Otalpa stations.
Very nice. Mr. Duffield was a member of the Barossa in South Australian House of Assembly from the 9th of March 1857 to the 6th of April 1868, and from April of 1870 to December of 1871 he was also treasurer in the John Hart government from the 23rd of October 1865 to somewhere in the March 1866.
Now, he served in politics, I guess, all the way up until 1879, and he died in 1882 and was buried at Williston General Cemetery. But don't worry, the list goes on because his family is also listed. Now, Walter married Phoebe Johnstone, and they had a bunch of children: Mary Ann Hawkes, Louisa Carolyn, Eleanor, Emily Martha, and David Walter.
Many of which survived him, outlived him even, and some of them, including Emily and David, were born in 1849 and 1851, respectively. Emily does not have a date of death, so it's totally possible she's still creeping around.
That lady would be 174 years old, but don't worry. If she can do it, you can do it.
That's right. So never give up hope, even if you are a small moth like our other competitor. So, Rob, it's that time of the round where we're faced with a decision. We've got this individual who had a sweet beard and a sweet career versus this moth that is a moth and we know nothing else about it.
Well, as my mother always said, if you had to pick between a moth or an Australian, don't trust the Australian.
That's right. There's nothing more reliable than a moth, except for, I don't know, something else probably. I can't think of it in this moment, but I can't think of not moving this moth on to the next round of...
The ultimate tournament of everything.
It's just the tables are slanted. It never really had a chance. He never really had a chance. The moth was going to win from its evolutionary creation.
It's always a moth, guys, and I don't know why they do so well, and I don't know how they do so well, and we make up the rules, and I wish I could tell you why we're drawn to move them on, but we just are.
They are the light that pulls us forward out of this moment and into the next, which is round 4.
Ah, my round 4 is ready.
In round 4, we have Kumamon against Michael Winnie.
Oh, very, very nice. We have a mascot created in, looks like, by the government of a place in Japan. We'll dig into that, and we'll also dig into the life of Michael Whitney, who was a Church of England bishop, served in 2 Episcopal popes, and the great-great-grandson of Charles Dickens.
Kumamon is a mascot created by the government of Kumamoto Prefecture, Japan. Created in 2010 for a campaign created to draw tourists to the region after the Kyushu Shinkansen line opened. Kumamon subsequently became nationally popular and in late 2011 was voted top in a nationwide survey of mascots.
Following his success in the contest, Kumamoto earned 11.8 billion yen. That's $120 million in merchandising revenue in the first half of 2012, after having only earned 2 billion yen, or $26 million, throughout all of 2011. He still enjoys tremendous popularity throughout the world. Basically, this is a place may or may not have had anything exciting, and so they created a mascot, and people loved it and continued to visit his associated area.
I think you can say that it's probably like Mickey Mouse, although this one might be a little bit more successful. Now, in just 2 years, Kumamon has generated $1.2 billion in economic benefits for his region, including tourism and product sales. I like how they put his, as there's not a group of people who made this. It's just all the mascot bear. It's definitely his money, guys. As well as $90 million worth of publicity, according to a recent Bank of Japan study. Sales of Kumamon items have reached 29.3 billion yen in 2012, and the Bank of Japan also estimated that he's generated 123.2 billion yen in revenue during a 2-year period.
It does truly seem to be all on him and not really else the area, other than that they've created this very cute and profitable mascot. Part of its success can be directly attributed to its cuteness. The unusual marketing strategy of free licensing is also behind its commercial success, since the Kumamoto Prefecture grants usage rights for free to anyone as long as their products promote goods and services from the prefecture. And furthermore, in 2018, the Kumamoto Prefecture decided to allow foreign businesses to use Kumamon, aiming to expand Kumamon to the world.
And expand it did. It gained internet popularity when images of Kumamon, usually around large fires, were captioned with, "Why? For the glory of Satan, of course." The Kumamoto Prefecture has taken this well, but has more carefully restricted official photography of the mascot. And in 2018, Kumamon has embraced a new identity as a YouTuber.
Oh, that's very, very nice. I'm glad that he's feeling confident enough in himself to branch out. Videos in Japanese have been uploaded onto its YouTube account every Monday, so be sure to check that out right after you check out our daily episodes coming out every single day of the week. I don't see Kumamon doing that. Hopefully, we get some of that yen. And speaking of yen, I have a yearning, can't spell yearning without yen, to jump over to our other competitor, Mr. Michael Whinney.
Michael Humphrey Dickens Winnie, born the 8th of July 1930, was a Church of England bishop who served in 2 episcopal posts. He was born in Chelsea, in London, on July 8th and educated at Charterhouse School and Pembroke College in Cambridge. He became a Cambridge Master of Arts and later gained a Master of Sacred Theology degree from General Theological Seminary. He was ordained in 1957 after an earlier career as an accountant.
You can always count on religion. His first ministry position was as a curate at Rainham, after which he held 2 posts at Bermondsey, firstly as a priest in charge of Cambridge University Mission Settlement, and later as a vicar of St. James with Christ Church. He became an archdeacon of Southwark before being ordained to the episcopate in 1982 as the Bishop of Aston.
After 3 years, he was translated to be Bishop of Southwell, where he remained until 1988. Taking temporary early retirement from Southwell with an injury early that year, he returned to Birmingham for a sabbatical year, and in February of the next year, he was invited to become an assistant bishop of Birmingham and canon of the cathedral. In retirement, he continued to serve as an honorary assistant bishop of Birmingham, and he died February 3rd, 2017, at the age of 86.
And let's also circle back to that fact that he was the great-great-grandson of Charles Dickens, writer of many memorable books, including he did A Christmas Carol. Did he do that one where the guy says, "Please, sir, I want some more"?
Yeah, that's well, what is that one? I don't know enough of that, but yes.
Blanking on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
me
one.
too in this moment. But he's not blanking because he's got a pretty good resume. Is there anything else there? He did have two sons and a daughter and a wife. They were
Two-
married in 1958, and that's pretty sweet. So, who do we have here as our victor? With this guy who led a sweet, sweet life, or this sweet, sweet, cute character, Kumamon, bringing in all sorts of money for no sorts of reasons?
I think we have to give it to Kumamon. Why? For the glory of Satan, of
Glory of
course.
Satan. Yep. Okay. And I guess that's gonna overpower the clergy in this particular instance. Yeah, it's a pretty creepy character. We haven't really described it though. It looks like a bear. It's flat black. It's got white eyes, ears, and a mouth area with two red circles forming its cute little cheeks. It's a very simplistic character, and I think it's fascinating that it's caught on and had the effect that it has.
You know what? I think I have to change my vote, and here's why. His use is free if you're from the prefecture. We are not. We're not.
Oh, or advertising something for or from the prefecture, I believe.
Okay. We can
So it's
advertise for them.
just, yeah, I mean, we're definitely advertising. Go get the merch, get the sweaters, get the hats, get everything, and do it all for the glory of whatever you choose to find
Yeah, that's-
important.
I just want to know. I don't condone the message that comes with Kumamon. It's the internet, guys.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's funny, and I think that it should continue, as will Kumamon, into the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Follow the random dancing bear.
Yep, always a good decision. If you find yourself anywhere and you see a dancing bear, I would certainly recommend following it forward into whatever adventures may await you. Speaking of adventures that await us all, let's proceed with caution into round 5.
Round 5.
Okay, everybody, buckle up for this one. And if you have kids in the car, you're going to have to look this one up later because we're going to talk about the Jeselnik Offensive, which is the American late night television series aired on Comedy Central, hosted by pretty vulgar stand-up comedian Anthony Jeselnik. We'll clean it up for the podcast, but if you're going to want to read more of the article, you're going to have to do that on your own. Now, he is against, of course, Cal de Crook's Railway Station.
Okay, so we've got one thing that's completely off the tracks. We've got one thing that does all it can to stay on the tracks. Let's see which one is going to be our choo-choo choice in this round.
Now, of course, this was hosted by stand-up comedian Anthony Jeselnik, who extended his onstage character into weekly topical humor with a sociopathic, dark twist, like Tosh.0, but darker and not as funny. The show primarily consisted of a monologue and two panelists who joined him in adding a humorous take on shocking, lurid news stories.
The series premiered in February of 2013 on Comedy Central, was renewed for a second season on April 26th, and aired July 9th of 2013. On November 11th, 2013, Comedy Central canceled the Jeselnik Offensive after only 2 seasons due to low ratings and probably a whole bunch of letters.
Yeah, I'm not the only one who said it was bad, guys. It's not just me. The people have spoken. Now, his show has been described as a combination of a late-night comedy series and a podcast, which, of course, people love podcasts.
We love it.
Each episode opens with a monologue from him, which focuses on tragic news and dark humor. And the following segment can sometimes be a comedic remote or an audience participation game. Several recurring bits are used. Sacred Cow is a segment that takes a subject deemed off limits and proceeds to make several very inappropriate jokes about it. And each segment uses its platform to tackle such off topics such as cancer, bullying, and missing children through everyone's favorite way to handle those things, jokes.
Well, they do say that laughter is the best medicine. So this is a unique approach to some things that are kind of tough to talk about. And he did so in an offensive way. The following 2 segments feature guest panelists who continue the wicked tale on news. The final segment, Defend Your Tweet, in which Jeselnik digs up an old tweet by each of the panelists and confronts them with it. At the end of each show, Jeselnik looks back at faux best moments from the broadcast that they just made and closes the show with his sign-off phrase, "Good night, kids. Go read a book."
Reading a book would be a great idea. Now, apparently, he came up with the idea for the show because there were things he couldn't say on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and he's like, you know what? We need a darker show than Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, which I understand. Late Night with Jimmy Fallon is a pretty bright, happy-go-lucky show. I understand that.
He had to get worked up to it, though. It was a big change for him. Looks like he was looking for a half-hour show to go after the Colbert Report. It would be airing at midnight, and for the pilot, Jeselnik did a test interview with a celebrity, but felt, quote, "so wrong. It just fit me like a bad suit." For the show's first episode, end quote, a little bit before that, Jeselnik performed cancer-related stand-up for a cancer support group. And he says he had to fight with Comedy Central to put on that first episode. I can't imagine why, as they were uneasy using the sketch as an introduction, but he pointed to the premiere episode of The Chappelle Show, in which Dave Chappelle plays a blind African-American Klansman, which he regarded as one of the edgiest things they ever did. And as such, the sketch earned the first and opened the first episode, receiving a positive reception.
Now, his edge, unfortunately, wasn't without its drawbacks. He revealed in his Netflix special Thoughts and Prayers that Comedy Central threatened to cancel the show after Jeselnik made a joke about the Boston Marathon bombing the day it happened on his Twitter account. After Jeselnik told Comedy Central he would not delete it, they threatened to fire only him. They then informed him, okay, fine, we'll cancel the show and we'll fire everyone who's ever worked on the show. To which Jeselnik then deleted the tweet, saying, "What I could not do, what I cannot do, is walk up to my cameraman and say, 'Hey, buddy, no work for you on Monday. I had this really sweet tweet.'"
Yeah, definitely a fine line to walk between humor and offense. And I think that we know that all too well. And speaking of getting railroaded, let's jump into our next contestant, the Caldecrew Railway Station.
Now, of course, this serves the village of Caldecrew in North Lanarkshire, Scotland, and is managed by ScotRail and is on the North Clyde Line.
It was originally opened by the Bathgate and Coatbridge Railway in 1862, and it was closed in 1956, then reopened in 2011 as part of the Airdrie-Bathgate Rail Link.
Now, the station was due to be reopened as part of that same rail link. However, building work was held up by bad weather, and a bus service ferried passengers until the location was able to open. The reopening eventually happened in February of 2011, and the project created to enable Glasgow and Edinburgh to be linked via a fourth route by reopening the railway between the towns of Ardry and Bathgate.
So let's talk about the services they provide. The station has a basic half-hourly off-peak service Mondays to Sundays, westbound to Airdrie, Queens St. Lo level, Milngavie, and eastbound to Bathgate and Edinburgh Waverley. In the evenings and on Sundays, the westbound terminus is Helensburgh Central rather than Milngavie. Keep that in mind.
I'm never going to be able to pronounce these words. Now, the station and railway travel in general, it looks like it's on some hard times because in 2019, they carried 104,000 passengers, and that next year, 2020 to 2021, only 9,628 people took the train.
COVID might do that to you, but in a good twist of fate, it was up again between 2021 and 2022, about half of that gap to 51,724. I bet that it's a little bit closer to that 100,000 mark at this point, because who doesn't love a good train ride?
Well, I sure know I do, and I think that's why I need to give this round to the train.
That's interesting, because I was thinking that I was going to go off the rails with the Jeselnik offensive. Yeah, I think it's bold. You know, you're going to get a TV show on there. You're going to push some limits. You're going to stretch the boundaries. And you really don't want to do either of those two things with a train.
Time for a tiebreaker.
Well, since Mike and I can't decide on the imaginary rules that we make up as we go, we now must decide on a few more to get us through this impasse. So I think the next best thing to do is put offensive tweets on Twitter, and whichever one Elon Musk deletes first is the winner.
Absolutely, but I really don't want to have to sign up for Twitter. I don't know how to tweet, or anything else. And so I think that I would just rather pick a random number between 1 and 10,000.
I think that's probably fair. I'm going to go with the number 1,862 to commemorate the original opening year of this great railway line.
And I think I will go with the number 9,999 because nothing can be greater than, taking a chance with comedy.
Okay, here we go. Our randomly generated number is 4,625, and every once in a while when you take a chance with comedy, you miss, but it was oh so close.
Every time you step on the stage, there's a chance that you might bomb, but you know what? There's nothing more reliable than a railway station, and that's why it's chugging along to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
I had totally forgotten about the weirdly dark humor, offensive 2010s of Comedy Central.
Yeah, and that show was particularly dark. They took it there. What was the other show with that other guy who's very offensive? They gave him a whole show too. They were trying things.
They really were. And that other guy, Jimmy Carr.
That's the guy.
Yeah,
That's the guy. Yeah, he was. Oh man, every so often I see one of his jokes and I think, man, I don't know how they let you get on. And speaking of getting on, let's get on to round 6.
Making a turn around the last curve. He comes around the last side, and there you have it. There is your winner, round 6.
In round 6, we have Central Reservations against John M. True.
Okay. We have a compilation album, Central Reservations, versus an individual with, I'm sure, a compilation of experiences and accomplishments. Let's see which one of these is going to be more of a banger through and through.
Central Reservations is the third compilation released by Grand Central Records, released in September of 1997. It consists of outtakes and remixes from Central Heating compilation and Tony D's Pound for Pound album. I don't even know what type of music this is.
Hopefully outtakes, because there's nothing better than bloopers. But I'm sure that all of these were just jams that could only be preserved in a compilation of the sort. Let's look at some of the tracks listed here. We've got Phantasm. The original mix looks like that's by AIM. They are, a British musician, DJ, and producer. Funky electronic music and hip-hop beats. All right, let's jump to the other one, or to the next one. Poor Koi by Only Child. They are also an English production duo. So this is probably a whole bunch of hip-hop track, club beats, things like that. Although you go down to track number 4, we've got Walk Like a Man. Is it the classic? Probably not, because it's an American hip-hop artist from Trenton, New Jersey. This is a compilation of definitely compiled individuals.
It's like they said, you know what, we haven't put it on an album yet. What can we put out? Oh, we can put on our worst stuff. Let's just put it all together. People love bloopers in movies. They'll love them in music too, except I don't think we would.
I think we might. It sounds kind of fun. I can tell you from being in a studio before, there's a lot of funny stuff that takes place between anything halfway decent. And speaking of anything halfway decent, let's jump over to our other competitor and find out if they fall in that category.
John M. True was a member of the Wisconsin State Assembly and the Wisconsin State Senate. He was born in 1838 and passed away in 1921.
That aforementioned birth took place in Moulton Borough, New Hampshire in 1838, and then in 1866 he settled in Greenfield, Sauk County, Wisconsin.
He died on February 17th, 1921 in Galesburg, Illinois, and was buried in Baraboo, Wisconsin 2 days later. He was a member of the Assembly during the 1897 and 1899 sessions.
And then from 1911 to 1915, he represented the 27th District in the Senate, and other positions he held were the member of the Board of Education, similar to the school board, assessor of Baraboo, which I guess just you go in every day and say, yeah, well, Baraboo's pretty nice. I've never been there, but I'm sure it is, and chairman of the Board of Supervisors and registrar of deeds in Sauk County, Wisconsin.
Now, Baraboo, if I'm remembering correctly, is right up near where the Dells are now, and actually the Dells might be in Baraboo, if I'm remembering.
That's sounding right. Yeah, so if he was assessing that place, it probably was a pretty good just about every day. Then he got to go back in, ride some water slides, and eat too much food. So let's jump back and make our decisions here. We've got a compilation album that it's tough to get a grasp on without listening to, versus John M. True, which we can't really listen to, but I think we've got a fairly decent grasp on.
Well, as we all know, the water slides are a natural feature of Wisconsin. They might be plastic, they might be bright yellow, but don't worry, they were there before the pioneers. John True could tell you all about it when he assessed the land in Baraboo, but I don't know if that's enough to put him over the top of this hip-hop electronica, looks like Factory Seconds album.
Yeah, and I like the, last round we were talking about Comedy Central. This round we're talking about Grand Central, and if the Comedy Central wasn't good enough to do it, I gotta think that a Grand Central is gonna push them over the top. The album cover for this kind of looks like an advert for a Comedy Central show where the pressure has been rising up, and there's a little pressure gauge here, but it's pretty far to the right, and I think that's going to be enough to release it into the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I can also agree that the Wisconsin Dells are pretty cool. So the next time that we go, we got to be sure to bring this album, listen to it as we're floating down the lazy river towards that seemingly, infinite and never to be arriving destination. That is round 7.
Round 7. Round 7. Round 7. Round 7.
In round 7, we have list of crime films of the 1990s against football in Poland.
Now, we're at it. We got a little bit of a pickle here because we don't exactly have a list of crime films of the 1990s as advertised. Rather, we have a list of lists, and that's not going to serve us very well, as the information contained within the article is going to have to be the one that moves it on. So, football in Poland. Let's see if we end up learning a little more about you than this list of lists. Rob, do you want to kick us off with the first list on the list?
Very rarely does anybody get a 7th round bye, but I think this is going to be it. The entire article for list of crime films of the 1990s is just links to other articles that we cannot read to you right now. But don't worry, football in Poland has an entire article. Now, football, as everyone knows, is the most popular sport in Poland. In over 400,000 Poles play football regularly, with millions more playing occasionally.
The first professional clubs were founded in the early 1900s, about 90 years before any of those movies in the list that we can't learn anything about. And the Polish national football team played its first international match in 1921. There are hundreds of professional and amateur football teams in Poland, which are organized into the National First League, second level, third level, 4 parallel divisions of 4th level, 20 regional parallel divisions of 5th level, and a variety of other lower level leagues.
There is so much football here that it started before Poland was even Poland. The history of football in Poland started in the late 19th century with the rising popularity of the new sport, and at the time, the Polish state was partitioned. The first decades of Polish football are therefore connected with the history of football in Austria and the Austrian Football Association, which was founded in 1904. The first Polish clubs were Lechia Lwów, Kazarny Lwów, Pogoń Lwów, KS Cracovia, and Wisła Krakow. The Polish National Federation, called the Polish Football Union, was founded on December 20th of 1919.
In a similar fashion to other European states, football, or soccer, appeared in Poland in the late 19th century. That's the 1800s, because they do that. In 1888, Professor Heinrich Jordan, a court physician of the Habsburgs and the pioneer of sports in Poland, opened a sports park in Krakow's Bionia, a large open space surrounding the demolished city walls of that town. The park, along with the Sokol Society founded in 1867, became the main centers to promote sports and healthy living. It was Jordan who began promoting football as a healthy sport in the open air, and some sources also credit him with bringing the first football to Poland from his travels to Brunswick in 1890.
Now, the history of the sport in Poland is actually very well documented, and we even know when the very first goal was scored. This, of course, happened on July 14th, 1894, when a game was played between the members of Lwów and those from Krakow. The game lasted only 6 minutes, and it was seen as a curiosity rather than a potentially popular sport. Nevertheless, it was the first recorded football match in Polish history and was won by Lwów after Włodzimir Chemicki scored the only goal, the first known goal in Polish history.
You know what? Like in so many football or in football games, one goal will probably do you. And at this point already, I'm thinking this is A, fascinating, and B, gonna be a 1-0 victory for football in Poland over this list of lists of crime films of 1990s.
Well, as with any sport, you really only need to win by 1 unless it's pick-up ball, and then you must win by 2. But this isn't pick-up ball. This is the major leagues. This is the ultimate tournament of everything. In football in Poland, you are crushing the competition.
And moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Good job, football in Poland. Boo on
That was
you, list of films.
Yeah, give us some information. I really appreciate that the list, or rather the football in Poland, that was fascinating. When do you ever get to know the first of anything, really? When was the first moth? When was the first town in Iran? You know what? Sometimes you can't be interested in first because that information isn't there. So let's go ahead and be interested in eights with round 8.
I say, would you by chance have any round 8?
Round 8!
In round 8, we have Haya Al Dowdy against Byasa Impedians.
Okay, yes, we have prominent rabbi, composer, and poet from Andalusia facing off against a species of butterfly so close.
Haya Al Dowdy was the son of David, son of Hezekiah Gan. He emigrated from Babylonia to the Iberian Peninsula, according to historian Abraham Zacuto. He was an outstanding rabbi, liturgical composer, and poet, and served as advisor to King Alfonso I of Portugal, who was accorded the title of Chaya Rachon la Gil Portugal, Chaya, first in the land of Portugal. 2 of his poems were included in the compilation Betlat Bat Yandura by the scholar Samuel David Lozado.
Some of his hymns are still used in Sephardic congregations around the world. Now, he was a beneficiary of extensive grants of land in the vicinity of Lerida with permissions to rent them to whomever he desired, Christian, Jew, or Muslim. He also owned wine cellars in the Jewish citadel of Lerida. He is the first Jew to be designated in official documents as bailiff or al-Maksifrifa.
Lerida and Monzon are close to Saragossa, also in Aragon. Southwest of Saragossa in the city of Khalchid was the magnificent Ibn Yahya synagogue, built by Aharon ibn Yahya, besides 2 other chapels of prayer and study that bore the names of their founders. Calitude is translated as castle or fortress of the Jews, and by the kings of Aragon, the Jews of Calitude were granted certain privileges, including one that pertained to oath-taking. Such privileges were from time to time renewed.
Very nice. He was administrator of Templar lands in Castile Leon, Spain. He is buried in a cemetery there, just outside the walls of the Templar castle. He fulfilled an important function in the appointment of conquered territory on behalf of King Alfonso I, the Battler, who apparently lived between 1073 and 1134, of Aragon and Navarre. Rabbi Hia was instrumental in conquering the Taifa of Zaragoza, which included Lerida and Zaragoza and Monzon from the Arab dynasty named Banu Hud, whose ruler was Al-Mastain.
Now, he might be a conqueror there, but is he going to be a conqueror here against Biasa impedens, the pink-spotted windmill butterfly found in Taiwan? This beautiful butterfly has a wingspan of 11 centimeters. Its wings are black and have large, light pink spots, and the underside are similar to the upside. The body is partially black with a covering of red hairs underneath.
Interestingly, the larva feeds on Aristolochia species, which is a large plant genus with over 500 different species, and it's type of the genus of the family Ariostichiaceae. Its members are commonly known as birthwort, pipevine, or Dutchman's pipe, and are widespread and occur in the most diverse climates.
Now, unlike the moth from the earlier round, this butterfly includes a picture, and it is quite the dramatic picture indeed. I don't know if they had cameras when Haya al-Dawdi was around, probably not, given the time frame, so I don't know if I can compare his visage to the visage of this butterfly.
It is a beautiful butterfly. Looks, if I saw it in the wild, I would probably be like, oh, get it off me, because it's got all the red and pink stuff on it. It probably looks a little poisonous, but likely that's the point, to keep itself safe. And if it is poisonous, all the better. Cool looking butterfly. Is it enough to take over this prominent rabbi and composer whose hymns are still used today throughout the world?
Well, it doesn't take much to be a winner on this show, but I think it takes just a little bit more than what the butterfly could do today, because a stiff breeze is enough to keep it out of competition.
Yep, I think that is a fair note. As were probably many of the notes in his hymns, which again are still utilized throughout the world. So I'm in concurrence here. Hia al-Dawdi, you are moving on singingly to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
It's a pretty butterfly. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, if only it were a moth.
Those always win.
They do. Not always, because you can go back and check it. And we hope that you do. Check out all of our episodes that are available up to this point. There's plenty of them, because we do this every single day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can find full-length episodes just like this, head-to-head competition. And every other day of the week, we do a scouting report, a peaceful, pastoral look at just one of our competitors prior to competition to see how we think they may fare when they inevitably show up to battle in this. But speaking of battle, we're not done with the battle. We've got one more round. Rob, what round is it?
9!
It's about time for round 9.
Round 9.
In round 9, we have Bargasa against Altacorpus Jaffreyi.
Indeed we do. We have an inland town from a place that if I reveal now, we won't have much to tell you about in a moment, versus a thing that is in a place. It's a Halpochromine cichlid. Let's learn more about what that actually is together as we proceed.
We'll start with, of course, Bargasa, the inland town in the north of ancient Caria inhabited during the Hellenistic and Roman times. The site is located near Hayder and Kavakli in Asiatic Turkey. That is the article.
Oh, hey there. That's one of my favorite places in Turkey.
Hey,
It's right near Let Me Slide right by you. And what you're talking about.
Well, we're talking about now the cichlid, which is endemic to Lake Malawi. There's a widely distributed fish there, and it can be found at depths of 18 to 150 meters, although it is most common below 60 meters.
So we're talking about a fish here, right?
Well, we were talking about a town that doesn't exist anymore, and now we're talking about a fish that they don't include a picture of.
Yeah, and I don't even see the word fish, but I trust you. Oh, look, there's a little picture of a fish. It's not connected. It's a different type of fish, likely, but this one is pretty cool with some purple on it. The specific name honors the British carcinologist and ichthyologist Geoffrey Fryer, who studied the fishes of Lake Malawi, especially the cichlids, which occur in the rocky areas of the lake. The
Now, a
rocks.
carcinologist, I'm going to assume it's carcinologist, they study crustaceans.
Oh, so he just happened upon these nifty little fish.
Yeah, he studies crabs, fish, shellfish, smaller fish, bigger fish. He likes fish, especially the cichlids, which occur in the rocky areas of this lake.
So this guy was definitely interested in crabs and clams. That we know for certain. We also know for certain that this other place does not exist anymore. I wish we knew more about it because I'm sure some nifty things took place there.
I'm sure they did, but I'm sure they're not taking place there any longer, whereas I bet there are still fish in Lake Malawi, unless something's gone horribly wrong.
I think that's just enough to move this species of relatively unknown to us fish swimming on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Tell Your Friends.